We are live. Oh my goodness. First live of 2021. Good evening, everyone. My name is Suzanne Hart and welcome. Oh my goodness. It is 2021 and what a 2020 we had, but I am excited. I'm so excited for 2021. So I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you out there, if you look back at 2021 and you look back at 2020 and you look back at your life, do you have a story to tell? Do you have a story to tell? Right? I'm sure everybody has a story from 2020. But are you one of those people that are waiting to get your story perfect, to get it right, to just massage it? If that is you, this live is for you. So this is for you if you are the coach, the consultant, the speaker, the entrepreneur that gets in front of people for whatever reason, whether it is a sale, whether it is a Facebook Live, whether it is a live stream, a Zoom, or maybe you're one of the few people who's still speaking live. Power to you. Well, this conversation is for you. As I said, welcome to Unstoppable Mindset, new name, Unstoppable Mindset. And our topic today is I challenge you to bring your authentic self to the stage. I'm going to tell you where that title comes from in a moment, but that is the conversation today. I challenge you to bring your authentic self to the stage. So before we jump in, I want to introduce the beautiful sister that's sitting beside me. This is social media strategist, Taria Hodge. Hey, welcome, Taria. And you know, I call Taria a strategist, not a social media person, not someone that does social media, but she is, in my mind, the strategist. Why do I say that? Because this is one person that I found that wasn't just giving you tools, telling you to load your post up into Buffer, Hootsuite, all that sort of stuff, giving you content. No, Taria sits down with you and helps you build a strategy for the year, backing out from your next event so that you are in the marketplace, in conversation, getting people's attention, attracting your ideal person, your ideal client, your divine client, way before you have to promote an event so they know you, like you, and trust you. So welcome, Taria. How are you, hon? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. And then, like you said, 2020, oh yes, my gosh. 2020 has brought plenty of stories, for me, things that I started using in the beginning of 2020, even before, the pandemic hit. So yes, I'm super excited to have the conversation with you this evening. So thank you for having me.
It's interesting because 2021 is starting with some exciting stories, right? Some exciting things are already beginning to happen. And I want to talk about taking the stage today. I want to talk about bringing your authentic self to the stage. And when I define stage, I want everyone that's listening to really get that we're talking about life as a stage.
Yes.
Right? Life is a stage. So this is any time you are in front of someone and you want to have impact. That's what we're really talking about. So it's one-to-one or one-to-many. Life is a stage. So before we jump in, let's just see who's joining us. I see Nana. Welcome, Nana. I see Facebook user. I don't know who that is, but there's
Gwendolyn. Welcome, Gwendolyn. Thank you so much for jumping on and joining us this evening.
So hello, Gwendolyn. And so we have some people that are beginning to join. And so welcome. So I want to just give you a little bit of what to do. I see Cindy's joined us. What to do as you jump on. First thing I want you to do is to let us know your name. So if it doesn't show up, give us your name, where you're joining us from, what you do while you're living, and who are you called to serve. What might jazz you as you go into 2021? I'm also going to ask you to bless a life, and that means share and let people know that we are live and the conversation is bringing your authentic self to the stage, okay, to the Zoom, to the StreamYard, to wherever, whatever platform you love. As we do that, I want you to also be engaged in the conversation. What that means is to comment. Let us know what you're taking away. If something lands for you, let us know it lands. Put the word that resonated for you in the comment section, but be engaged. And also let people know where to find you, what you do, because this is our networking moment. All right. So we are going to have a fantastic live tonight. Now, if you're listening to the replay, first of all, hashtag replay, thank you for joining us. And we want you to do the same thing. So one, let us know who you are, where you're joining us from, how people can find you, what you do, and who you're called to serve. I know it's a mouthful, but tell us a little bit about yourself. Also, when you love what we're going to share, I'm going to say it again. When you love what we're going to share, I'm going to invite you to bless a life. Pass it on. Pass it on to someone. Touch them. Inspire them and say, this is just what you need today. All right. So welcome. So as we jump in, and our topic is I challenge you to bring your authentic self to the stage. As you can see, my guest tonight, the person I'm sitting down and chatting with, is my co-collaborator on many things, Taria Hodge, social media strategist. So Taria, when you hear I challenge you to bring your authentic self to the stage, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said. Like, the world is your stage. So how do you show up on your stage? But specifically, when I think on the stage, I like to think of the virtual stages. Okay. So coming through, this past year, I think, if you're on here, you're watching, you're most likely an entrepreneur, a business leader. You probably have had, your fill of virtual events in 2020.
Absolutely.
So I love to talk about, the virtual stages, because there's so much opportunity at the virtual stage. So whether you've been speaking virtually, whether it's been on Zoom, whether you've done virtual events, or you're doing your Facebook Lives, maybe you're on Instagram, you do YouTube Lives, wherever you are, I want you to start to think about it. It's not just another broadcast. It's not just another stream, right? But it's your stage. And the beautiful part about it is that you have the ability to bring your authentic self to the stage, bring your vulnerable self to the stage. And then what that does, it gives you the opportunity to have your audience connect with you in ways that you can't imagine. So that's what bringing yourself to the stage means to me.
So when we first talked about bringing your authentic self to the stage, because I'll share what happened for me when I was asked to bring my authentic, vulnerable, transparent self to the stage, right? When you heard that, what came up for you?
Oh, so I'll share with you. The first time I've ever heard to bring your authentic self, bring your vulnerable self, be vulnerable. I have to admit, I was scared. I shook in my boots. And as a matter of fact, I think I even cried on the stage. So it was the thought of being so open, being so transparent, so naked in front of people that I didn't know. It just terrified me, and I have to say, it was very hard, for me to do, but it was one of the best things that, ever happened, because after, like I said, I literally cried on the stage. But after that, I felt more of a connection with the people that were in the room. And so just a little backstory to kind of frame it a little bit. It was a 3-day event that I attended, and I kind of hid out in the background all 3 days. And I was literally the last person to do their presentation. Okay. And truth be told, I was hoping that they would, forget about me. They won't know that I didn't do my presentation. And then the whole event would have been over and I would, escape that moment. But no such luck for me. And like I said, it was very terrifying for me, very scared, the thought of just being so open and sharing. Okay. But what happened after that, people started to come up, ask questions. They felt like they know me they knew me or understood me on a different level other than what they've seen before previous to the 3 days, and even at the 3 days that we spent time together.
I love it. I love it. So for everyone that's listening, when you hear bring your authentic, I challenge you to bring your authentic self to the stage. Put in the comment section what comes up for you, right? Let us know what it makes you, how you feel, what it makes you think about, what goes on for you. I got to tell you, so I'm going to share when I got this conversation. So I've been speaking for, oh my goodness, it's been over 10 years now.
Wow.
And when I first started, I mentored with a gentleman by the name of David Wood. And David is, I call him the master trainer. He is the best of the best. He is one of the smoothest, authentic, real people I have seen on stage. And so when I first started speaking Tria, I was committed to perfection. I was going to write. I was going to look good. I was going to sound polished. I was going to do all the things that everyone does. I see Cindy wrote fear. I love it, right? I was going to do all those things. And David kept saying to me, Suzanne, when authentic Suzanne shows up on stage, it is going to be all over. And all I kept thinking was, authentic Suzanne is never going to show up on stage. I don't know what you're talking about. Because when he was talking about authenticity, he wanted me to tell stories, but he didn't want me to tell the surface story. He wanted me to tell all the messy stuff, the stuff that didn't make me look good, the stuff that didn't make me feel good, the stuff that often we're told, don't tell anybody that.
Yeah.
That's what he was talking about. Authentic, real, transparent, actually kind of messy. And so I would take the stage in all my glory, all my polish, all of it. And the audience would like me. I'd get great applause, but no one would connect or buy. I want you guys to get this. No one would connect, buy, or want to really follow. And then one day I decided, okay, well, we're going to try this thing, bring my authentic self to the stage. So I told my story. I told my story about being financially upside down. I told my story about being in a marriage that wasn't working. I told my story of being physically exhausted, not liking my job, packing up and leaving town, starting all over, the whole thing. And then when I got off the stage, Tria, I felt like I had taken all my clothes off and was running through the audience. That's how naked I felt. But what happened next, I will always remember. Because I remember the first person that came up to me, she was wearing a red dress and she was crying. And I thought, oh, what did I do to this poor woman? And she looked at me and she said, thank you. Because of you, I now know I can do this. Other people started coming up to me and going, oh my goodness, thank you for sharing. I had this going on in the background. People began to share with me and they began to connect with me in the most authentic way. And what I realized David was trying to tell me was when you and I show up on stage in all our perfection, we put distance between ourselves and the audience because truly, who's perfect? Yeah. Nobody's perfect. So when we show up in all our perfection, all the audience is thinking is, that's really cool, but I can't relate.
Yeah.
That's really cool, but she doesn't get me. That's really cool, but I don't live in that world. Right? And so that's what the audience was probably thinking all the time that I showed up as my polished self. But when I began to share the true Suzanne, the real stuff, my fears, my doubts, my concerns, the impact of things that were going on in my life, suddenly it was like the audience started coming really close to me. And it was almost like I began to know them and they began to know me. But the other thing I remember, Tria, from that day, it was the first time I felt the air come out of a room. You know that moment where the audience leans in and they stop breathing and you're like, oh, I got them. It just landed, right? It was the first time I had that experience.
Yes.
And I thought, this is what he's talking about. Our authentic self, right? So I want to unpack for everyone listening why this works. It is the secret sauce. It is the everything. And I want to talk about why it works. So So this first question I'm going to answer is, why is authenticity the secret to success and engagement? That's the word. Engagement with your audience. And so, I think the thing that really happens when we get in story and we become really vulnerable and transparent is because we become transparent, we give the audience permission to be transparent and to be vulnerable. And the other thing is the engagement happens because they see themselves through us. How many of you have watched me speak, listened to me speak, that's listening, and have seen yourself through my eyes? I have uncovered a story that resonates with you, right? That's really why it works. True, you and I do, so you're my social media strategist. So why, we're talking about story and writing story, speaking the story. Why do you think it works in terms of, the connection and engagement?
Yeah. As you were speaking, one of the things that came to mind for me is hiding in plain sight.
Ooh, yeah.
And, I think I was the master of hiding in plain sight. And when I say hiding in plain sight, I've done trainings, in person. I've done trainings on webinar, and I could stand up and I could stick to the content and I could teach away. And I remember literally saying it to myself, as long as I don't have to share like anything, once again, personal, anything vulnerable, right? Like, I'm good. Let's just stick to the content. Let's just stick to the teaching, stick to the tool, whatever it is that we're doing, and everything is all right in Sharia's world, right? And the thing that I had to learn, because eventually what happened, I too kind of hit that ceiling, in my business. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, what is it that's preventing me, from getting to the next level? And then as I started to unpack it, what I realized is that, yes, people understood the content, people understood the material, but they didn't feel like I got them.
Yeah.
So they saw me as the person who not only came through, like they saw me at the end. That's the best way that I could put it. Like, I just miraculously somehow just was born with all of this knowledge, right? And I'm here to share the knowledge with them. But it wasn't until I started to share stories on my journey, they really understood and started to connect. Oh my gosh, just like me, she's an entrepreneur who has a desire to build a wildly successful business, right? And her business, is going to do this for her. And oh my God, her vision is similar, to my vision. And it wasn't until I started to, once again, connect, be vulnerable, share stories, and not only the good stories, share the stories of the failures, the pain, like, oh, child, I ran a Facebook ad, and let me tell you how that ad tanked. But here's what I learned, from that experience. And through that, people started to say, wow, I get it. Like, you're the person for me. So that's the power, of the vulnerability and the power of the story.
When I teach speaking, one of the distinctions we make is that there's a difference between content and context.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And most presenters, most speakers come to the stage and they're all caught up in their content. I have so much great content to deliver. What makes content land and why content becomes valuable is when you create the context for the content. And the context is the environment that you create. And that is your telling people how you came to earn the right to share this content. The bumps and bruises, the 10,000 hours, the I don't know, I figured it out. I thought I figured it out, then realized I didn't. It's all that stuff that creates the context that makes your content valuable. There's also this distinction between that's presenting versus connecting.
Yes.
And it is the stories, the real stuff about yourself, who you are, and how you came to be standing on the stage with all that credibility that you now have. What's the journey from here to there?
Yeah.
That is connecting with your audience. And if you and I don't connect before we present, our presentation often falls on deaf ears.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're not listening. They're not listening.
Yeah.
You guys know what I'm saying?
You lose them.
Well, they're listening from here.
Yeah.
Right? They're listening to the data. They're listening to the information. When you connect, they listen from here. Now, this is the important thing, that and no matter one-on-one, one-to-many, people don't buy from here. They buy from here, and then they justify through here.
Yeah.
And so when you start here and you don't go there, you have not made your sale, right? You've missed a part of the process. So it is, you connect first. And I like to say, and I know you love this saying, is people have to buy you before they buy from you.
Yes.
Right? They have to get you. They have to say, you're my coach. You're my mentor. I like you. I trust you. You have walked similar path as me. I could want to walk in your shoes. You understand me. That's what they want to know before they ever want to get to presentation.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
that relatability.
Right. And that's what vulnerability and authenticity actually does. Right. I love when someone says, I love that. Context creates content. Vulnerable. Crust, it creates your environment. Absolutely. Right. Okay. So that's the first reason you want to bring your authentic self. You want to take the challenge and bring your authentic self to the stage. But there's another thing I want to talk about. And before we get to how to get past the vulnerability, right? That feeling of vulnerability. This morning when I was reading, I was reading one of my devotional, and there was this thing that was written, and I thought, oh my goodness, he must know I'm presenting on this topic tonight, because it was so perfect. So he said, perfection is the cruel counterfeit of excellence.
Ooh.
I know, I'm gonna say that again. Perfection, and someone might want to drop it in the comment section. Perfection is the cruel counterfeit of excellence. And hi, Chrissy, welcome. And this is the thing, when I say that, what does that mean? It means that when you and I take the stage, sit in front of someone, and we attempt to put forth our best face, and we go for perfection. We wanna come across polished, unlike our true self. What you're actually doing is you're sitting, get this, you're sitting in fear and worry. Oh, isn't that nice? So you're sitting in fear and worry. And so what the audience gets from you, the person sitting in front of you, they get a disconnection, and they don't exactly know what it is, but they feel something. Have you ever been with someone, Sharia, and something's going on, and you're like, there's something off. I'm not sure what exactly it is. I can't put my finger on it. But right here is just telling me, intuition's just going, no, baby, that's not for you, right? Because when we sit in perfection and we bring fear and worry, because that's why we want to be perfect, fear and worry to the stage, to the conversation, it gets in the way of excellence. It gets in the way of your greatness. Because, and I really want you to get this, excellence, right, is born of failure. Excellence is born in mistakes. Excellence is born in all the messy stuff that you're being asked to tell, right? Because excellence is when you stood up after you fell and figured it out. Excellence builds that confidence. It's all that stuff. So when we talk about our perfection, what we're saying to the audience is, I don't want you to get too close. I don't want to tell you too much about me. I just want to show you my good stuff. And they're going, I can't relate to your good stuff.
Can't relate. Right? And it's so interesting, because that's one of the things that I had to unpack the difference between perfection and excellence. And you're right, like when you operate from that place of perfection where everything, has to be perfect, you really don't give yourself permission, to be authentic. That's
No.
what really perfection is. You don't give yourself the opportunity to show up as you, quirks,
Messy.
yeah, bruises, everything and all. And I remember specifically, one morning as I was preparing, to do the social media Saturday show, I was standing, in a shower, and I actually said to myself, right, like, what, today I'm going to be excellent today. And when I thought about excellence, what I said to myself, I'm going to do my best. Now, being my best doesn't mean that I'm perfect. It doesn't mean that I have all the answers, right? Because I could get on a broadcast and someone could ask me, and this is like my biggest fear. Like, you get on a broadcast and somebody asks you a question and you don't know the answer to the question. And then you go into your mind like, oh my gosh, what are they going to think? And then you take yourself all the way to this crazy place, right? None of it is true, by the way. I just made it up all in my head, and I'm running through stories in my head. But the moment I gave myself permission to be excellent, what I said to myself was, I'm going to do the best that I can, right? And if someone does ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, so I don't know the answer to the question, but if you join me in a group, I'm pretty sure I'll figure it out, and then I'll let you know, right? And that's excellence. And then wanting to say, like you said, go back, take a look at it and be like, oh, how can I make that better for the next time? And Absolutely. So that's how, I look at excellence versus perfection. Like, I've gotten rid of perfection a long time.
And this is what I actually I learned, and I'm going to wordsmith a little bit for everybody listening, right? So when I decided that I was going to pursue excellence, everything became perfect.
I love that.
I didn't say I sat in perfection. Everything became perfect. So every time I took the stage, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Every time I took the stage, it was perfect. My anchor for taking the stage is I am blessed. I sign all my things blessings, right? So I am blessed and it is perfect. And this is what I mean. If it goes exactly the way I wanted it to, it's perfect. Yeah. If it doesn't go exactly the way I anticipated, it's perfect. If I messed up, forgot something, had a moment, didn't know something, it's perfect. Because remember, the fruit of excellence is in my imperfection. So the perfect thing is that I took the stage and was willing to put my best out there in that moment, but my best created the space for my next best. It created the space for my learning. So this is the other thing about perfection. When you give it up, you create the space to be the continuous, everlasting student. Yes. Right? And so for me, what I realized was that if I gave up perfection and I sat in the places everything was perfect and I became the eternal student, excellence had to be mine. Yeah. But this was the part I had to practice. Practice. So when I say bring your authentic self to the stage, I'm not saying don't bring your prepared self to the stage. I'm not saying just take the stage and wing it. I'm saying practice and master your skill, your craft, and then when you get to the stage, surrender and allow it to just come out of you because it's in there, right? That is what we're talking about. So, Sharia, here's a question. And I know, this is, if no one's asked it, I know there's a few people thinking it. So if we're going to give up perfection and we're going to bring our authentic self to the stage, how do you get past the vulnerability, the feeling of vulnerability, the feeling of like, oh my goodness?
So I'll share with you how I get past mine.
Okay.
One of the things that I always keep in the top of my mind, that it's not about me.
Yeah.
So very quickly, I do believe we could all go to this place where, it's all about us, it's all about me, and the ego kicks in, right? And when I find that ego kind of creeping up, I like, no, ego, it's not about you, at least not right now, not today. It's not about you. It's about who you're called to serve. Okay. And when I keep my mindset on serving, then I show up, to bless, and I show up to share, and I show up to give, to the people who I'm called to serve. And I almost all the time notice a whole energy
Yeah.
shift. The fear goes away. I'm not worried about all the other stuff because all of my energy, and focus is concentrated on the people who I'm called to serve. So that's how I get over, the vulnerability issue. I just keep focusing on who I'm called to serve and how I'm called to serve today.
Well, I'm going to say ditto to that answer. I would answer it almost exactly the same. I remind myself that the audience is the star.
Yeah.
And anyone when I teach and do speaking and I train on it, I tell people that the thing to remember is the audience is the star.
Yeah.
And so everything you say, everything you plan, everything about your presentation has to be designed to make the audience the star.
Right.
And so when I get there, I am so focused on who's in the room, how I'm engaging the room, how I'm managing the energy in the room, all those things, how I'm serving, that I am a non-issue, right?
Yeah.
I am an absolute total non-issue. And this is the beauty about it. When you get into that place, when you're locked and loaded in that place, I don't know about you, Tria, but I get playful, I get goofy, you get the real Suzanne. Now, this is the other thing. I also get so connected with the audience that there's a brilliance that I access in those moments that I don't otherwise access, because the audience calls out the best in me if I allow them to be the star. Now that's a clip right there. I just want everybody to know that was a clip, right? The audience calls out the best in me if I dance with them and I allow them to guide the process and be the star.
Yeah, I love that, because you see that, like, when you go back and you watch your presentation, or you watch your Facebook Live, you watch your speech, and I know, Susan, you've probably experienced this before, where you see yourself or you hear yourself, and then you go, oh my gosh, who's that person? Was that me? Did I say that? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's because, like, you're in that zone, and you're given, and you're not worried about the perfection. And like you said, you have that connection with your audience, and it just flows.
I have been known to be on stage and actually stop and say, was that not good?
Yeah.
and I tell people, and it's really not me taking credit for it, because it's not of me, right? It is truly a co-creation with the audience that's happening. So it's not that I'm in awe of how brilliant I am, although I am, as we all are, right?
Yeah.
But it is that I am so in awe of the synergy, me, God, and the audience, and what happens when that culminates. So there's moments where I'm just like, wow, did we just experience that? Did that just come through me?
Yep.
That is the beauty.
I can take your own notes.
Yeah. That is the beauty when you and I choose to get out of our own way, right? So another question. How can modeling authentic leadership and mentorship impact your success? I know. I took a while thinking these up, girl. Well, I've had some rest. I've been off for a while.
I like that question. Modeling authentic leadership, right? Read the question again, because I want to make sure I capture.
How can modeling authentic leadership and mentorship impact your success? And this is the key to speaking. So we're asking questions, but we're really giving you some clues as to the secret sauce behind really good speaking.
Yeah. So I love the question, modeling authentic leadership, and I love that. And so one of the things that, Susan, I just have to say it, in my time spent working alongside you, is like I have a totally different definition of what leadership is. Okay. So I came from the space of thinking leadership was all about how, I impact others. I mean, it is, right? But really, the impact of the others is like secondary or sometimes even tertiary, right? The first person that, I impact as a leader is myself.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, as you talk about authentic leadership and how it impacts your success, I think that that's what people are really drawn to. People are really drawn to the leaders who do a good job of leading themselves, leaders who do a good job, of having the mastery. And then, once again, it doesn't mean being perfect, but they're able to see the journey. So they're
Mm-hmm.
able to see the mess, they're able to see the challenges when you have the challenges, because we're all going to, newsflash, we're all going to have the challenges, right? So let's just put that on the table. Stuff is always going to happen. You're always going to have a challenge. But what people are watching is they're watching how you come through the
Mm-hmm.
challenge. Okay. How do you stand in the face of adversity? Okay. How do you show up for yourself? That's what they watch first. Is not how you show up for yourself allows them to see how you will show up for them.
Absolutely.
Because that's the thing. If we're not showing up for ourselves in those challenging times and those hard times, those tough times, then people, you could say what you're going to do for them, but then like they're not going to believe you because you haven't done it. And that's like one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, like on this journey. Like people really pay attention to more so than what you say. They want to see you do it. They want to see you live it. Like, so are you talking about this? Are you living this journey? Can I see, like you said that this was going to happen and oh, it didn't happen the way you said it was going to happen? Did you just pack up your bags and take your ball and go home? Or you stayed on the playground and you stayed committed to the focus and you say, hey, I'm going to figure this out, right? And then you figure it out and then they see that. And then they go, you're the person for me.
That's exactly it. And so beautiful answer. And one of the best compliments I've ever gotten, and I've gotten it a few times, but it's like the top for me, one of the top ones, is someone will say to me, you are exactly on stage who you are off stage.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, right? And the other one is that when I speak, I have a conversation with the audience.
Yeah.
I don't have a conversation at the audience. I have a conversation with the audience. And for me, what allows me to have that conversation with the audience is I know that I am required to be the example. So I tell people, I don't speak on what I don't know because I'm not going to pretend to know it. I don't put on airs when I'm speaking. I speak from the heart and I recall. And one of the reasons I can take the stage, and anyone can do this without notes, is because I know that I know that I know my stuff because it's in there because I walk it, right? I talk it, I breathe it. It is who I am. So I don't have to practice what I want to say. I have to prepare what I want to say, but the true recalling of it is so natural because I have learned to lead by example. I have learned that I don't have to tell people what to do. I am required to model for them who I'm called to be in the world and let my calling do the work. Right? And it's a different way of living when we're talking about the stage for many people. But then, and I know, I tell people that the stage is my playground, whether it be here, whether it be live. Anyone who's done a program with me, I learn as much as my students. I have as much fun as my students because it is my playground, because I get to bring me, all of me, all my knowings, all my not knowings, all my desires to learn, all my desires to grow. I don't have to sit in perfection. I can sit in authentic, true, honest Suzanne and come to do the work with you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Okay. And so my question for you is it true that you did a call, the same call every day for 4 years? And
I
can you share with us, since we're talking about stages, can you share the impact that that had on you and also the people who you served on that call?
such a great question. So this was the thing. When I started speaking, I was deathly afraid of speaking. And what was interesting was there was a gentleman who kept telling me I needed to speak because he saw something in me that I didn't know existed. And so when I finally had the courage to get out of my own way and take responsibility for my gift that he saw that I was in denial of, hiding in plain sight, yes, Taria, um, I fell in love with it. I just thought, this is
Mhm.
cool. I will live through this. This is me. And so if you know me, I'm all in or I'm all out.
Mm.
And so when I was all in, I was going to move from good to great. And so David told me to practice. And he
Mm.
said, practice on stage. When what you do on stage, practice it anywhere. Well, at that time, we didn't have Zoom, but we had freeconferencecall.com. Remember that?
Yes.
Freeconferencecall.com. So I had a free conference call line, and I would jump on every morning at 9, I believe. And I would train from 9 to 9:30, 9:45. My call started with 3 people. It ended with 100. 100 people would show up every morning to listen to this call. This was the benefit of it. I started the call with notes. My first few months was with notes. By the time I was done my first year, I was no longer using notes. Freestyle comes from, by year 4, I didn't even prepare. I would just jump on the call, give me a topic, I'm ready to go. The purpose of it was practice,
Mm-hmm.
right? Practice built my competency, but more importantly, it built my confidence.
Yes.
And what it did was, because I trained every day, Monday to Friday, 5 days a week for 4 years, my recall of content became like instant.
Yeah.
It was like I had so much content in me by the end of those 4 years. I had so much content that I'd heard, practiced, reheard, rejigged, done one way, done another way, activated by a comment someone said, that I just could recall. I could produce on a dime. But the other thing, Sharia, because I was not in a need to be perfect, I never also muted my lines.
Mm.
Now, this is the beauty of practice, because I'm in a practice arena. So I didn't mute my lines. And what became available to me was a listening that you can only get on a conference call. I could tell over a period of time, I could begin to tell when things landed for people. I could tell when people got nervous on the call because the energy on the call changed. I could hear and recall and know who was speaking by voices. It became so profound. But that's the power of practice. So I teach freestyle, which is being able to take the stage without notes and not being able to depend, not having to depend on your PowerPoint, using a PowerPoint for the pictures and the stimulation, but not reading from your PowerPoint. That's kind of how I teach and train. And, the beauty that became available to me was that I could just be. And in order to just be, it requires practice. And I think the challenge that many speakers have is the only time they speak is when someone invites them.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine there were times when I was speaking 2 or 3 times a week because I got invitations, but I still spoke every morning. So there's the answer to your question.
No, I love it. And 2 things I'm going to say that I took away from that is competency and confidence. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I know that, because I get this question, all the time too, in my business as a social media strategist, especially when it comes, to doing videos. Okay. And one of the things that, I learned, just like everybody else, once again, the fear of vulnerability showing up. There's a question that's in the chat that I'm going to answer in just a second, right? But is that vulnerability thing? But what I found is that the more and more like I show up, right, it gives me the opportunity to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I could do this, right? You build your confidence, you have the conversations over and over, like you said, and then you build that connection, that engagement, with your audience, and then it boosts your confidence. And so once again, putting that along with just letting go of the perfection, then you become unstoppable, right? And because
Yeah.
that's what it's doing, it's just building like that unstoppable mindset, for you. So I absolutely loved that you shared that.
Thank you. Thank you. And it allows you to sit in this place of, me, fun and play,
Yeah.
right? If we're going to do it, we're going to do it in fun and play. And practice gives you access to fun and play. I liken it to, anybody knows me, I'm an athlete, and athletes get in the zone when they're playing. So
Yes.
when you practiced and drilled at your sport so much that it's in you, and your body just kind of goes on autopilot. There's an element of that. It's not that you've tuned out. It's that you're so connected, and that you recall with ease. And that's the place you want to get to. And that's practice. That's mentoring. That's one of the reasons we do the freestyle workshops. That's why we do Unleash the Power of Your Story, is because we want to help people come to that place of ease, but you need an environment to practice.
Yeah. And I love that you shared that. And so one of the questions that's in the group, I do believe it's from Gwendolyn. She says, having a level of authenticity and being vulnerable, right? And she talks about people being judgmental and people being so mean. And it's like I can't not leave the broadcast
Ah,
with touching that, right?
oh yeah,
And
let's touch
yeah,
on that. That's a
and,
great
and,
one.
and I have to touch on it, especially in the space of social media. And so as I like take a look at this video journey, where video started, right? Or where I shouldn't say where it started. I should say where I entered into video marketing. And I came into video marketing on Periscope, and I came in when Blab, was on the scene.
I
And
remember Blab.
yeah, the two of these platforms were kind of like open platforms, right? And when I say closed, like I look at Facebook as a closed platform, and the only reason why I say it's closed is because people are, even though it's open, kind of like, but people are your friends or you have a group, and so you kind of feel that safety and you feel that comfort, they're going, live in those places. But I remember getting on Periscope and getting on Blab, and it being so scary because people who I didn't know all over the world, would tune in, onto the broadcast. And once again, the need to be perfect. What if I make an error? What if I, say something? Or my favorite thing is, what if my accent jumps out? That's like my biggest fear, right? What if my accent jumps out and no one could understand me, right? And then what I once again had to, understand, Gwendolyn, is that I'm not called for everyone. I'm there for the people that I'm serving, right? And so if I stay focused on what I'm called to do, which is really show up and serve, then I show up and serve. Okay. And don't sit in the place of excellence, but sit in the, don't sit in the place of perfection, but always strive for excellence. So do your best, right? And then after you've done your best, you think about how can I come back and make it better. And like we're talking about all of this, I think the conditions now are so right, Suzanne, for audience out there who are watching, we don't have to wait until we get invited to somebody's stage to speak. We could create our own stage. Okay, there are platforms out there, that you can use. You can jump on a Zoom, you jump a StreamYard, do Facebook Live, YouTube, and give yourself that opportunity every day, to practice, become more competent, and then gain more confidence.
Tria, I want to add to this conversation because Gwendolyn, is such a great question. It's a powerful question, and I think as entrepreneurs, the reality is an entrepreneur is in many ways a creator. Mm-hmm. We create content, we create products, we put our ideas.
We create solutions.
Right. and you and I and everyone listening who's creative, we risk putting our ideas into the marketplace. And so this is what I've learned. One is, as you said, Tria, I'm not for everybody. Mm-hmm. Two is the people who are going to criticize me without bracketing it for my growth. So there's a difference between criticism and feedback. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between feedback that's given to ensure I remain whole and complete and it moves me forward versus feedback that discourages me and pulls me back. And so for me, what I've learned is to be really discerning of who I receive feedback from. So I've gotten to a place where someone may comment and I'll be like, the spirit of that comment is not for my betterment. It's not for my growth. Delete, not worth my time. Because I do know that the people who are called to have me become great, to have me make my best better, are also going to give me feedback in a way that holds me whole and complete. Those are the only people I'm interested in listening to. Yeah. And whether it's a stranger, because I've gotten some really good feedback from strangers, and I've gotten some feedback from people who what they do is they squish people.
Yeah.
That's their mission. They squish people, and they believe that by squishing people, they feel bigger. That's not someone who I want their feedback. And so as an entrepreneur, I think that it is really important that you galvanize yourself and you create the mindset that allows you to be 10 feet tall and unstoppable. And that is really allowing who you allow to influence your emotional state. And so I've learned to be very selective as to who gets to influence my emotional state. And there's some people I'll be like, dude, we're just going to go delete that. Right? So I hope that serves, because that's a beautiful question, particularly as we say, take the stage, be vulnerable, be authentic, show yourself, be transparent. I think one of the things, Tria, and I will talk about this later on in the month, because this is a month of, we're going to talk about speaking, we're going to talk about communication mastery. And I think one of the things I want to talk about is how much authenticity, how much vulnerability do we want to share? Because I know that's always a big question.
A big one.
And not only how much, but how do we put our vulnerability in the marketplace so it serves our audience? Because remember, your audience is a star, but it also serves us and leaves us feeling empowered, complete, and whole. So we'll talk about that.
Yes, I'm looking forward. And I just have to say thank you so much, Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn says, Asante Sana, beloved angel sisters. After 50 years, I finally understand why my grandma used to say it's the cracked note that do the healing. So thank you so much.
Beautiful share. Beautiful share. So, like, we're back. We're back in 2021.
This is a great way to kick off 2021. I love it.
In full swing. Oh my goodness. Now I'm gonna put it out there, because one of the challenges I made for myself, for everybody, is to be a little bit more vulnerable and to really have some real conversations. So we're gonna talk cultural competency this year. We're going to talk a little bit about race. We're going to talk about racy. We're going to talk a lot about speaking. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to ask some provocative questions. I think this year is my year to ask the audience provocative questions and to discuss things that provoke us. So one of the reasons we changed the show to Unstoppable Mindset is because I want to really sit down with people who I believe are unstoppable. And unstoppable doesn't mean that you're making loads and loads and loads of money. Unstoppable means that you have a bounce back, a resiliency, a get up and go. I'm going to keep moving. Nothing's going to stop me from where I'm going. That type of attitude. You are a person who learns from your challenges and makes lemon out of lemonades. There's never there are bad moments, but there's never a bad month. You are a source of inspiration because you choose to be great.
Yep.
And you choose to lead and influence and inspire other people around you. So we're going to be talking to those people this year. I'm excited. But the first thing we're going to be doing in January, last few days of January, is Unleash the Power of Your Story. We are going to have a small preview and showcase 3 times this month. So you definitely want to, I know Tria's going to drop the link in the comment section so everybody can take a sneak peek. Definitely register to come and check this out. This is all about, if you love this conversation about speaking, we're going to give you more content, more information. We're going to do a deeper dive in terms of the power of storytelling and the power of being your authentic, vulnerable self on stage. So it is a webinar, so it's not a Facebook Live. So you've got to register so that you can get your link, your invitation to show up and hang out with us for about an hour and a bit. But I trust you. Trust me. This is a beautiful conversation.
Yeah. And I have to say, please, if you're out there, and some of the questions that I get all the time in the social media space is, how do I, connect more with my audience, right? And we're sharing with you the secret to connect with your audience. And the secret is in the power of your story, and it's in your vulnerability. And how do you use those two things in combination with your content? And so if you are out there and you're asking yourself, like, how do I do that? So you've heard all of it, and then your question is, how? This is your invitation to join us on Magnetize and Monetize, the virtual stage. So yes, I just dropped the link into the comment section. So make sure
I'm registered.
I already secured my spot. I'm registered and ready to go. Super excited. So I think the dates, we need to give them the dates that we're doing the Magnetize and Monetize, the virtual stage webinar is January 13th. January 18th and January 26th. Okay, so you have 3 opportunities to join us, on the webinar this month.
Awesome. Well, Tria, as always, it's just fun to hang out and just have these conversations. I am committed to everyone, just that if your desire to speak and to show up powerfully on any live, on any platform, you definitely want to join us. We will be back here next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or at least I will be back here. I don't know if I'll have Tria as my guest. We never know. We might continue this conversation, but I will definitely be back here 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another episode of Unstoppable Mindset. My name is Suzanne Hart. I've been sitting down with social media strategist Tria Hodge. Blessings, and we will see you back here next week. Take care.